Well, Ian, I wrote down a few words when I was thinking of interviewing you, like how most podcasts, like people describe their guest in the beginning.
They do their deaths.
Their guests.
You can see where my mind's at.
Note to the audience: Ian has had a lot of death in his life,
and we're both deaf, by the way.
And we're both deaf right now. I'm hard of hearing, and Ian is hard of hearing.
I'm getting back there. Yeah,
we're getting back there.
A lot of punk rock shows, motorcycles, and surfing.
So we're going to have a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
I heard you say this.
Will there be subtitles?
And you'll say, no, that is not.
Can we get live subtitles?
Totally.
Yeah.
They'll appear right here by your feet.
Google Translate? What did she just say?
Oh my God. But your phone's filming, so you don't have Google Translate.
That's right.
So just say, what? So I wrote down solid and flexible, karmic aware, manifester, tactily effective and visionary, exists in all realms, surfer, rebel, father, brother, son, producer. And I would also say excellent friend and human.
Let's go through the shadow side now, shall we? Asshole, road rager, used to drink a lot, likes to start shitting, the water when he was younger. I mean,
but isn't that interesting? So that's one of the, there's been an arc. You're as the leading character in your life. That's what makes a lead role, right? It's the change in the main character.
Enneagram, yeah.
Okay, so let's just do that. Let's go. This podcast, by the way, is going to be about Ian and the ocean. I think that's going to be the overriding theme. That's
also, if I could bring back the White Lotus, one thing I love about it, the cinematic storytelling, but he always involves the water, like beautiful scenes of the water.
Okay.
And the dream I had last night, which was like, what dreams may come, was the ocean, the water. Mm-hmm. My dad always comes in and says, golden God on the water. So I like that theme.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's what I'm feeling. And also the waters are emotion, right? In dreams.
Yeah. And subconscious.
And so if your story is started in the ocean and your mother, you've been in the ocean since memory, what's your earliest memory of the surf, of the ocean?
Well, the ocean or water?
Either. Were you born in Hawaii or San Diego?
I was born in San Diego in 1968 at Mercy Hospital, up in Mission Hills, where I grew up. But I did a past life regression in my early 30s when I was after 11 years of marriage counseling. And they finally just started doing past life regressions. And it just turned out getting divorced was like the best medicine. So, but along the way, we got a lot of really good therapy. I've got a lot of good therapy. I grew up in a family of therapists, all into this stuff, Tibetan Book of the Dead and all the woo-woo and crystals and stuff. So I was really grateful to have this upbringing around me, this awareness. Well, my earliest memory of water was, I did this past life stuff. Let me just go back to when I was 2.5. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in South Mission on the water.
Do you remember it, or is it a story of 2.5?
It's hard for me to recall because I'm a photographer and I take pictures to remember things. And I'm not sure if I was triggered from, those memories are triggered from a photo I saw later or what, but I think I piece it together to memories and feelings and smells. I think that's why I return to a lot of these places that I grew up with, going to, and it's just, the smell of the air at a certain time of year, the sand, how it feels. But yeah, my earliest memory was probably 2.5. And we'll start out in the shadow side. So I think I've shared this with you once. When I was 2.5, it was I was a late bloomer in talking, but boy, did I catch up later in life. And my parents were kind of hippie light, they had me really young. So I had to kind of get get on it. They're 19 and 20. Well, we were at a cabin up in Idlewild for Christmas. And I woke up with a nightmare, talking in my sleep, yelling, swearing, profanity, like I was on a river.
Profanity you didn't know. at that age?
Yelling, and it was like people were getting shot all around me. I was on a river, like in Vietnam. And so there's this river theme. And also like a rage, right? That kind of carried with me until I started really surfing when I was like 11. But the water was, and my parents were perplexed because they didn't swear. I wasn't talking. And all of a sudden, it's like The Exorcist kind of thing. Right? Yeah. They shared that with me later, a lot later.
Was it repeated or just the one? Does it sound like it was a repeated incident that you'd wake up to?
It was a couple of times. Yeah. And then I had more, like a lot of repeated war dreams, and up until I was like 11 and a half, like every single night. Really heavy duty. Yeah. Like I think back and I was like, it was intense.
And that is during the Vietnam War that you were born?
I was born, yeah, with all the tension, my dad, the whole thing. So yeah, feeling it all probably. Anyway, the water was always there. Like we were just always in the water, down at the bay, swimming around. My sister on South Mission side. Yeah. But for me, like surfing was like my savior, because my dad was a triathlete. He was off doing his thing, and I tried running and stuff and doing all the things he did, and I was good, but I was more drawn to more, and I wasn't into sports, like organized sports. I played them all, but I loved skateboarding and surfing. And then I started biking down to the beach, which was like 6 miles from my house, after my paper out in the morning, and going and surfing every day. Like one summer, it was like 8th grade. And it was like, I just switched. Everything just kind of clicked in. I was independent, and the water was just so, it just neutralized my fire, my double fire. So, yeah.
So your earliest memory of the water may not have been from this timeline.
Yeah.
And then also the water healed you.
Yeah.
So you started surfing early on, and your dad taught you?
No, actually, my uncle Tim was a pro surfer in the 70s. My dad's younger brother, Tim, he's about 10 years younger, and he technically taught me, but it was like learn by fire kind of teaching, and it was enough for me to like go, I'm gonna go fucking teach myself, because this guy was, he's a gnarly pro athlete, not really great bedside manners, and ended up being a Western Division weightlifting champion after that, and then fire chief, and just a man of few words. And he just would just take me out on this big stormy day and push me in, and not a lot of instruction. It was kind of like, okay, go fly. Yeah. And so I taught myself, and I just went to boogie boarding, because boogie boarding was accessible. You could just get a thrill out of just riding the wave. But I got so good at boogie boarding when I was like 10, I was like surfing the boogie board, and older guys were trying to get me to surf. I'm like, no way, man. I got my boogie. I'm good.
Boogie.
And so when I jumped to a surfboard, it was just like, it was an easy transition.
I love it. Let me refer to my notes here. By the way, that nicotine gum.
You feeling it?
I am feeling it. I had to take it out.
And oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, you could just kind of put it on the side.
Yeah, exactly. It's out of my mouth, but not out of my system. Okay, so over the years, you shared with me a lot about your family, and it feels to me like this, like number one, and part of it's because you're a producer and you're an artist. But the way you describe your family is like this cast of epic characters. Tell me about that. Like, I know it's probably not the first time you've been with them, and every time you describe them, it's as though you're describing or you're pitching some, beyond Marvel movie. Is that the way you see things? I have a feeling, and also I feel like that's your family.
Yeah, I was really. I never took it for granted. I always was like really aware of how special my family was, because it's a huge family. My mom and dad both had like 4 siblings each. Everybody still lived up in Ventura, Santa Barbara, Oxnard, and grandparents all intact. My mom's dad died when she was young, 20 years old, which affected her, and I felt a lot of that pain too. And he was a really beautiful man. And all my aunts and uncles, and then all my cousins were all close. They were just like all sisters. There's only a couple of boys. I was the first one. I was the oldest, and then followed by my cousin Jenny, who I'm super close with. She's amazing up in Seattle. And all my cousins, they're just all angels, and my uncles and aunts, and everybody was like a clan. So friends of ours who would get pulled in, or we have family picnics or whatever, would just get absorbed into the love,
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like a team, and a lot of enthusiasm and love, and just a lot of pranks. Everybody was athletic and, doing their own thing. And then, we just had really good, like, family vibes,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my nuclear family, my mom and dad, my sister and I, we grew up together because my parents were, like I said, young. They were like 19 and 20. So in a lot of ways, like, we all kind of grew up together. They were just trying to figure things out because, the way that they were raised in the 50s with their, Catholic, middle class upbringings or whatever, it was different than growing up in the 80s in Mission Hills and, fighting against the war and leaving the church and that kind of stuff. And so they got into spiritualism, and I was really, I think we choose our families, we choose our tribes. And I got turned on to that idea of, we've been here before. Like, that seed was planted when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I heard it talked about. I didn't really understand it, just like I didn't understand Buckminster Fuller or biodynamics or crystals or all this meditation or stuff that my parents were doing, Carlos Castaneda, Tibetan Book of the Dead, Living and Dying. I mean, it was all around me, and it was never forced on me. It was sort of around.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was always a subtext of, they were, I don't want to say they were a couple of steps ahead kind of thing, mm-hmm. of where I would go. And then I took it deeper on my own levels with things, in a different way. But yeah, it's something about, family too. I've learned from my sister, and just having a lot of friends who passed along the way, like 9 super close people. And whether they're past or they're here, like now, it's like, that's family, the idea of family. Because I have a lot, and then that idea came to me more as tons of people started dying, like an incredible amount of losses, and I started to see the family as expanding. Like, they're still here, their energy's still here, but also your family is, could be, some really close friend, or, you can have an aunt or an older person who's like your mother figure, or, a sister or a brother that you didn't, don't have a great connection with that person or whatever. So I was really lucky to have a pretty, solid nuclear and what do you call it, post-nuclear or expanded family. Mm-hmm. And now, though everybody didn't have like the same politics or the same belief stuff, we all had enough to kind of get along and, mm-hmm. Didn't bicker about the small stuff, enjoyed each other's company.
Your nuclear family sounds like had that magnetism to attract the other, equally but different true family.
Totally. Yeah. So within our family, we're definitely like a nucleus, mm-hmm. and like making things happen and bring people together. I feel like I was a big part of that too, because I was kind of a neutral. I was always like neutral force, and just sort of, like, I broke in my other grandfather, Spider Papa, who I nicknamed. He was like, kind of a meanie when he was younger and a little abusive, and alcoholic and, Navy guy. And, I softened him up, and then and when I went off to photography school and I was living up there and hanging out a lot. And, he ended up being this big, sweet teddy bear. And, by the time my cousins were all coming up and along who were 10 years younger, they just see him as like this sweet guy, but he was friggin', it's not super pleasant to be around. Because I was sort of, I think I was like entitled a bit. I was a bit like I was given a lot of leeway with things. And I think my parents trusted my intuition. So I could sort of see like adults bullshit. And I was allowed to just kind of live in my own world, and just not have to always.
And you could just call it out.
I could in a good way. I wasn't a mouthy kid, but
yeah, but you could just call it.
I could not take it personally and not take it like I have to live on those rules. Like, I had options.
I've heard so much about it, and it's interesting to me because I've dealt with very little loss in my life, and it sounds like you've been through a lot of that. What's your process with grief? Or is there one?
Still learning. It's like constant. I should have cracked the code by now. But yeah, that's a good question.
Because I know your life seems to come at you at a really rapid speed, and you move at a really rapid speed. And so maybe it's just what you have time for.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think, when my father was dying, I was getting a divorce, and my dog died all within like a couple of months. I was deep at, my studio position in a huge corporation, doing a lot of important work and, the same work I do, but I was deep in 15 projects at once. I was doing all this artistic work, and I was important, and it was able to kind of pour my energy into that. And I still do that. Like, I'm really lucky to have that, where I can just click into this other world, and escape, but also just be present. So it's escape, but it's just being present. It's like, okay, well, it's not serving me to dwell on the past. What would, this energy want me to do? They want me to keep carrying on and just bringing art to the world and helping people heal and helping, communications, the stuff that I do, and just bringing that energy. And so I get motivated by the thought of not being here, just not being able to do the things you do every day as a human.
So are you saying, like, because you won't be in this life forever and you love what you do, it helps you kind of
appreciate,
leave the rest behind and put all your attention into it?
Yeah, just death is with me all the time. I think about it a lot more than probably most, and not in a bad way. I don't see it as the end. I just feel, freaking all the angels around all the time, always accessible. It doesn't feel linear. Time doesn't feel linear to me. Less and less in the last 3 years. So with regard to the actual concrete thing of the body and the grieving stuff, I've done some, I got into like deep breath work like 8 years ago. And writing, and just writing down and just really getting into my dreams, into like some subtle, like lucid stuff where I can actually go into the dreams and kind of be an active participant in them, and then waking up and writing things down and getting things out on paper, right? And whether I make a movie out of it or not, I'm not really sure. I'm not concerned about it. It's more of just like a process. But it's an interesting question. Like the grieving, it could be the grieving of death is of loss. It's actually easier from that's. I feel like I'm a pretty good a master of it because of the way that I feel about death in general. That it's not like the end. That I still channel these people and think about them all the time, and I think about like what their lesson was for me, and this ripple effect. Like each person that's passed has left this mark of making me who I am. And it's just all energy, right? But the grieving thing that I've recently had to like deal with more is like the loss of I have 2 teenage daughters. One's getting ready to go to college. She's lived with me for 4 years, just me and her. And, my other one's been dealing, with, chronic illness and pain for this developing, escalating thing for 10 years. And we're finally starting to get to the bottom of it. But she's been, it's been a fraught, relationship. We have an okay relationship. It's nothing bad, but she just is, at mom's all the time, and I don't see her much. And except for driving and here, tidbits here and there. And she and I used to be really close, and we still will be close. But recently I've just been trying to grasp those 2 griefs, and part of it is just I let go of like expectation. I just let go of an expectation of an outcome. And I noticed, I've tested that a couple of times. And I noticed things shifting when I do that, like maybe they'll, come to me more or whatever, but I'm also examining like where that hurt is, or where that hole is with me, why I've got this deep desire, because I grew up in this crazy nuclear expanded family. Everybody loved each other. We was together all the time. We do family stuff. We worshipped our dad, and I get the worship too. And we have really good. It's just not the same as what
not the saturation.
The paradigm that I grew up in. It was just like and these concentric circles. It's a little more fractured. I have to work a lot harder to recreate that. And I've been, kind of recently burning out from it, actually, because I've been just doing too much. And I'm having to kind of look at why I'm doing it. And part of that is grief. Part of that is this childhood stuff, like wanting to, recreate something, that I felt like I had, something I lost maybe. But I think the things that have worked for me for the grief, I'm very physical, we all are, but very highly energetic, electric. I can just feel electricity kind of going through me. So water and activity and movement has always helped. But physical activity isn't good enough alone. Like I need to do like with the breath work. And then recently I just did this Qigong breath work with my buddies Reese and Luke, and they're and Luke's brother who does the sound stuff. And they had a really great, it wasn't designed around grief per se, but they did mention it. But it was like 40 people a couple weeks ago, and it was an hour and a half, like holotropic breath, but they did like 15 minutes of like this funky Qigong movement, just shaking. And he had this rad curated kind of DJ list with some cool funky kind of, movement stuff, and just shaking and movement. And then we did the guided breath work for like an hour straight, pretty good deep stuff. And then followed by the sound. And so I came out of that just feeling like, how you do after a long breathwork session, but the shaking and the sound, and we finished off with like chocolate too, which I love. Handmade chocolate. It's amazing.
Grounding, heart opening.
Yeah. And so just that ceremony, like that, those set of ceremonies, the sacred geometry, whatever that did, on like it definitely just created this like, the sense of peace,
Mm-hmm.
and I think just being fine with it all, just being able to use your energy to heal yourself, to have the abundance of energy to be able to, like for myself, like send my daughters, love without having to like go pick them up and take them out to dinner or go do something because they may not want to, which is fine.
So you're with them.
Yeah.
You're giving them the information without having to be physically present with them.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom's been telling me about this. She's a Reiki master for years. And it took me a long time to kind of absorb that. But over the years, several years, I've been noticing, I've been tuning into a lot more with meditation and connecting some dots and realizing how powerful it is. And so, yeah, just kind of working in different levels to deal with it. Not traditional, like I think grief, stages of grief or whatever,
Right.
but they're definitely still there. I think those traditional methods of analyzing it are a good like roadmap to put a name on things and the stages,
Mm-hmm. But yours don't come necessarily in order or move one to another. They're just there.
I don't think super linearly like that.
Mm-hmm.
In that regard, I've got like lists and organization, and my productions are just bulletproof that in that regard. But with the grieving and stuff, it's more of an intuitive thing. Like I pick up on it. Well, yeah, I think just having a first thing is with anything is just like awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I become aware of it, then I could kind of feel into it and then adjust and do what I need to do. And it's not like I'm a master of it by any means. I'm learning. So.
And as you're moving through.
Next question.
Moving on. Well, it's what I'm hearing and what I've noticed during my time with you is that when things are stacked like that, when there is something that includes your body, mind, and spirit, and kind of integrates all that, you have a lot of processing that happens. It almost seems like it's more than processing, the immediate grieving or the immediate life. It's probably handling a lot of that. But would you say that that's one of the reasons why surf is so important? Because you do have to be present in all those ways, and all your attention has to be there, and it's a bit spiritual as well as like mentally you have to be on point, and physically you're in it.
Yeah, that's it's weird. My relationship with surfing has changed because I love it and I get a lot from it. But my expectation of the medicine is the same, but how I get there has changed. I used to have to, it was very aggressive because I had a lot of energy. I'd usually like store it up and then go out and explode. And it was just an incredible release, and I could go exactly where I want to go on a wave and do exactly what I want to do and dominate and flow. It's a combination. I have a very aggressive style, but I'm also flowy. It's like a dance. And I can make a good day out of a bad day. And I can always have fun no matter what, a stormy day or big day or whatever. Something changed like in 2022 when I went to G-Land in the jungle for a month, to go surf. And it's like the best, gnarliest tubing wave in the world, the edge of the jungle. There's tiger tracks on the beach. There's nothing around. You're just like in this hut with your buddy, and you'd think I'd be happy, like just surfing and doing that, but I wasn't totally fulfilled. And I was doing meditation, I was doing breath work, but there's something was switching in me. Mm-hmm. Then I could feel it. And I think I knew that there was like a lot of changes coming, like in the next couple of years. And so something switched. So with surfing, I've always been able to get happy just riding anything, but I've gotten even more where I just get in the water and paddle, or I can just go body surf. I don't need as much to be happy from it or get a reset. Mm-hmm. And I've had thousands of amazing days, like dream days, and feel like I've done it all kind of thing. So I don't feel like I'm like still like,
you're not chasing it.
Yeah. Like I get invited on boat trips and they just don't sound appealing. Like being on a boat for 2 weeks and surfing perfect waves. That just sounds like kind of a nightmare. Like I'd rather be on land, checking out like cultural things and then surfing, paddling out, or take a boat and just get little hits here and there, and I'm fine. Like that sounds better to me. Like a balance, I guess.
Yeah.
So surfing doesn't carry as much of that, like that's all I have kind of thing.
That's interesting because I haven't been, of course I grew up on my dad's surfing stories, and then now know more surfers than I ever had. And I noticed that it does tend to run their lives. Like it is everything. And for you, it appears to me that you've just embodied all the things that it can offer. And there's more of a well-rounded enjoyment of life, more dimensional. That's my perspective, for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because I know a lot of guys who start later in life, they're trying to catch up and make up. I've been in the water my whole life, and so I think that might be part of it. I do know guys who surfed as long as they're still die hard, and that's all they do. Very mono-focused, and that's cool. There's a lot of, salty dogs like that, and that's their medicine, and it's great. I kind of wish I was a little bit more like that, just simple. I feel like it's simple.
Yeah.
I can't be simple. I can't. That's why I love Hawaii, because I'm just like people say, "Don't you get bored living in Hawaii?" I'm like, no, like not at all. Like go surf in the morning, go do work in the garden all day, and and then go back out in the evening, and mix it up, ride a bigger board in the morning, so a little bit, let your body feel into it, and then maybe surf midday, short board, get some barrels. But yeah, I don't know if it's like an age thing or what. But I'm surrounded by guys who still charge. There's a guy in Indo, goes to G-Land every year. This was 3 years ago. He's 73, Larry McGraw. He's a retired dentist from Honolulu, 6'3", total cowboy, like kind of steely, doesn't talk much, really sarcastic. The guy's 73 and charging huge days out of death-defying reef break. He's 76 now, I guess. He still goes. And I have like a dozen people in that category that I know that are like in their 70s, they're just surf till they die, surfing big waves till they die, not just longboarding, which is cool. I mean, even just longboarding, but yeah, I'll always do it. Yeah. There's something with, I mean, honestly, now I'm thinking about it. I think part of it too is I'm maybe, because things have gotten so busy in the last 3 years, I've also maybe like lessened the importance of it to make me happy, and I've had other things that I can access easier. Maybe that's part of it, because when I think about it, I'm like, God, just surfing some crazy barrels, because I love riding like reef break barrels, and I'm good at it. I'm like really got a natural balance for it, and so I'm like, God, it'd be really fun to just go surf, and do that.
So maybe for a lot of people, that's their their biggest like tool, if you will, or outlet, and you just have many now.
Yeah,
You
totally.
can access it quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the holotropic breathwork stuff is like, I've done it like 4 times in my life. I do breathwork every day for the last 8 years, but the shorter stuff. But that holotropic stuff it's so next level. I've had the most profound like awakenings of my life every time. It's like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I love hearing about them.
It's great.
I mean, it's like a super deep ayahuasca experience.
Yeah, like real big downloads that change things, like big shifts.
And I think that's something for one of the premise of like this podcast is kind of that sharing of what works for people. You know, what opens up your heart, what heals us, what practices do we have that, sure, it works for you, you know, centering for your business, but it also helps like everything in your day. Yeah. And I think breath work obviously is a lot more approachable than, because like I, for instance, can't surf every day.
Yeah.
Or many, but the breath work.
I have to say though, you just brought something up. When I surf though, and I have a good surf day, like I did the other day, which is rare. Right. It's a different level of medicine and it lasts. Like I can deal with anything. That's why I think a lot of surfers, you know, are addicts, you know, because you get that dopamine hit. Yeah. And you get so addicted to it. It feels good. It feels good. It feels good. Especially you get localism at these spots that are really good all the time. People want to kill for it because it's that addiction. Yeah. And
well, and to be like, I think your mind is constantly handling a lot. So to have your body that exhausted too at the end of the day is.
Oh yeah. Because everybody's got stuff going on. Nobody more than me though.
I kind of got to agree with you. That's why
I don't talk about my shit too much, but I listen a lot. And whenever I hear somebody complaining about their shit, I was like, yeah, all right.
Well, I'll hear about it. Ian was a little quiet. I'm like, you have no idea.
That's why I like, I've always loved going to Mexico, you know, Tijuana. When I worked at PlayStation, I was there for 9 years, and we get some new designer or somebody from Midwest or another country, and they were getting bored in San Diego, and I'd take them down to, I say, let's go have a reality breakfast. Oh, what's that? I go, we're going down to Tijuana. And I did this right before 9/11. So just early 2001 before the borders got fucking crazy, where you can just drive across easy and come back easy. Right. But we go down, take breakfast, and you can see the people coming out of the hills, and the kids are all clean and getting ready for work, and people are already crossing the border to go to work. I'm like, you spend one weekday morning down there, like, you're not bored with your life. You're so grateful for everything, you know? But yeah, that's another thing is like not getting into a victim mindset and just being conscious of those thoughts of like, you know, as bad as things can get, you know, as challenging as they can be with the things around you, they're all temporary, you know? And I think having that awareness around the thought of where that's taking you with like, you know, oh, it's like a victim, poor me, why is this happening, that kind of stuff. I think everybody deals with that, you know, and you have a choice to what you're going to do with that, you know. Sure.
You introduced me early on in our friendship to the term, you're like, Espenscheid, I think we should right size this. Yeah. And I find you the master of right sizing and gratitude.
Right size your expectations.
Right size your expectations. And then even when you're in the midst of what I consider a lot of traumatic things happening, you find gratitude still. And so you attribute that a lot to your perspective in other countries, other cultures, other realities.
Death.
Death is a right sizer.
Death is my ultimate. That's the number one, because it's just like I just fast forward to could die tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What does this matter? Then I just go further out concentrically, and I've got the 13 stars, angels, who are always there. And then there's more beyond that, accessible. You're never alone.
Okay.
So those are my first two kind of go-tos. Still a couple of those little fucking buggers. I got rid of that palm tree, but
there's one less now.
It's coming out of that Hawaiian plant. Anyway. Yeah.
So you just go all the way. I do that often. I just go all the way to the Z. Well, like, what's worse? Well, I could die.
That, or just inspirational people I know that are, most of my close friends who are successful entrepreneurs, really independent, free thinking, great people, had the hardest lives. They did not have easy time coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad included. My dad and his brothers, included. And I found out more about his life, and so, I think we take for granted like the present moment of like, you hear a lot about like how crazy and fucked up the world is and stuff, and it's like you're not really putting it in the perspective of, fucking, 200 years ago, or I love Westerns for their simplicity.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it was harsh. Wild
freaking West, dude. It was just like just a couple of days ago, bink.
Yeah.
You're getting shot for looking the wrong way, I was in Iceland, stuck in Iceland with John Haffey after this photo shoot in Scotland, and we kind of manifested getting stuck there. We were both looking at each other on the stopover at the magazine on Iceland Air, and we're about to land there for an hour, and we're like, hey, this Iceland looks cool. And then, we went out. He wanted a cig break, so we went outside for a cig break. One turned into two, and then we missed the flight. So we're stuck there for a week. We end up hanging out with all these Vikings at this music bar, and this fucking radical psychedelic band was playing, and they all surrounded us, and they looked like our relatives. And I mean, it was weird. Like, and they all had beards. Haffy's got a beard, and we look like just this crazy couple of aliens. I'm in this like black ninja suit with this black hood on, and he's like got Vans and a Mexican poncho and dreadlocks down here. And they circled us, and then we were talking to him, and we're like, you guys, we all look like relatives. Like, yeah, well, we were all raping and pillaging each other 800 years ago.
Pillaging each other.
Yeah. And I was just like, fuck. Like that kind of perspective, you're just like, but you don't think about that, like what came before us.
Well, I think most people don't leave their hometown, so how would they have perspective, right?
Yeah.
You seem to put yourself and welcome those situations.
Yeah.
For expansion and better perspective and alternate views on things.
Exactly. Yeah, alternate views. I'm always looking at that with like my friends who've had these tough. Everybody's gone through stuff, but the people that I tend to respect and really listen to is, like my friend Tyler Reed. Him and his mom are just something else. Their story is like it's legendary. There's been big stories written about him, but yeah, you can make a couple of movies about his life. And so, yeah, I like getting, the reality Tijuana breakfast, wherever it comes from. So I always love hanging out with older people. When I was a paper boy, I hung out with old people all the time and listen to their stories. And, my grandparents, you listen to their stories and you hear, people's lives, and it's like, it's incredible what people endure, and we're just passing through.
Right.
What
are we going to make of it?
I know.
That's what I thought a lot during COVID. It's like, this seems pretty intense. Nothing's like what's going to happen. We have no idea. But we're not at war in this country, just like thinking about what our grandparents went through, or thinking about what's happening other places in the world. And it's like, this is as scary as life culturally has been for, I guess, our bubble.
Yeah. I personally had the best time of my life. I felt that I almost felt like I didn't almost, I felt it was a memory of that whole event happening. And it was just like this, I know a lot of people felt this, like going like almost like a second chance of childhood.
Because you now had different freedom.
Yeah, but it was like empty streets. I remember having dreams about this, and it was just, maybe it was sci-fi that I saw, like The Day the Earth Stood Still. Like, that's what I mean. Like, sometimes you see images, what came first, and there is no time. We're living in a movie. We're living in a hologram. We're creating and writing and editing this movie as we, every breath. But that time particularly just became it was so weird. I mean, I got that painting 3 months before the lockdown, and I heard about the stuff in China, but there was no thought of like what was going to happen.
Right.
It was just like, oh, this thing over here. And it wasn't until, and I just like the colors of it. I like the pyramid. I like the, little spaceship. I'm on all these things, Atlantis. But then this is before I got a dog.
I was going to say, like
and so I got Starly.
Yeah.
She came to me in that download in Joshua Tree during that 2-hour breath work under the stars, came to me as Anakin, not a dog. She was our dog who died with my dad. She was not a dog. She clearly came through in that vision. And then my daughter had been working on me to get a dog for 8 years since, and I was like, no. I was adamant, no, wasn't ready, whatever, the normal reasons. And she was just like escalating the campaign, and she's so meticulous and so connected with animals.
This is Kira.
Yes, Kira. And she would just make these little miniature books, and they weren't just like little sticky notes. These were full pros and cons and illustrations, and this is the kind of dog, this is why it'd be perfect. They were everywhere. I couldn't escape it. And so it was like a barrage, and it was impressive, but I was really good at just being no. But I had that vision, came down off the mountain, and she asked me, and she goes, Dad, I found the perfect dog. It says she just got born. She just was born like this yesterday or 2 days ago. There's a picture of her on the website.
And that's when you had the vision.
And she goes, oh, what's that?
So she was born and you were having the vision of her.
Yes. And she goes, can we get it? I go, yes. It just came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
My ears just totally popped. And she couldn't believe it, and this was 5.5 years ago when she was with me a lot more. She, I think, intuitively knew she was going to be getting progressively not feeling good and pulling away and needing,
so she
was creating a surrogate of herself, this proxy. And so we got Anakin, we got her, we did all the paperwork, did everything. And the whole story of getting her was out of this world. Like, we shouldn't have gotten that dog, but Anakin was with us, or the master Anakin who passed. And so fast forward to 2 months into COVID, and I got this puppy on my lap. I'm watching like Ancient Aliens on a stormy night and lockdown. And I don't always watch Ancient Aliens. I watch a lot of documentary stuff, but that's
Ancient Aliens is good medicine though.
It's like full, just,
it's awesome.
It's kind of bingey, like get the popcorn, it's like they take all the sound bites from all the, the deep interviews and make an interesting show for the masses. But it was cool. They were doing one on the ancient dog and hybrid human dog hybrids around the world from all the ancient cultures. And they're saying that the word dog doesn't come from any language. Mm-hmm. And, the Egyptians and the Japanese, and they had the Japanese was Dogu. And they were saying they came from the dog star Sirius. Mm. And that is what I saw in the Joshua Tree thing, was Anakin in the dog stars. So I'm watching this going, oh my God, and there's this puppy on my lap, and we're trying to figure out a name for her. And I go, Dogu. And she just sits upright, looks at me, and I was like, oh my God, like it was freaking freaky. Like it just
Yeah.
activated her.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. And it was like this little puppy, but she just sat upright like this perfect dog and like looked at me like that. I was like, oh my God. And then the next couple of days, I looked at this painting and I'm going, oh my God, this is us right now. You know,
And you're
the
both.
guy with his dog, we had the bubbles over our head.
Yeah.
The you know, this new age, this new earth kind of forming up. So,
Well, and sometimes when she's looking at something, it's not anything we can see in her profile. I just see Annabis.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally not just the furry
Not
little
just a pretty
creatures.
face.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, the things that you wonder what started what. You got this first.
Mm-hmm.
Your daughter had been on a dog campaign forever. And then at the right time, you had the vision. And then it was, you have the dog, but that's not the end. Now you're going to have this universal stamp of approval, like this is what it's about.
Yeah.
And it happened to be with the dog on your lap.
Yeah.
Of course.
Exactly.
So that's interesting, Starly as a surrogate.
Yeah, that became more clear like in the last like couple of years. I really started to realize it because I had the grief thing, the pain of like, Kira, why is she not, why can't I, come on over, but she just doesn't feel good all the time. She's going to clinics and, getting treatments, and it's just gnarly. And she's a little trooper. She's like, she deals with a lot. She's positive. She's still knocking out straight A's when she can go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Can't ride horses anymore. That was like our one thing we did every week was riding horses, and she hasn't been able to do that with the pain. But we'll get back to that. I told her the other day we're going to get, when she's better soon, we're going to go on we'll do like one of those, like either a dude ranch, or we're going to go like a horse camping thing in the Sierras, or it might be, I'm thinking Costa Rica, warm, and just do horseback riding and zip lining and river and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of mix it up. She
have your water, have your animals.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good point of light to move towards.
Totally. If we can bring Starly too, that's the next step. Just bring that dog everywhere.
It's dog friendly.
Hmm?
It's dog friendly though, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't eat dogs. Let me look at my notes. Well, one of my questions, and I think you already answered, is what is your happy place? Where are you most free? And I would, topically say surfing, but I don't know if that's true. Like when are you most free?
Wind and sea.
Mm-hmm.
Like around here, like just geographical places. I've really tuned into like where I'm happy. There's a canyon over here, trails. I'm happy in canyons after I grew up in canyons. I love it, like being in like coastal Southern California canyons, but this one's really cool. And that was Anakin's trail, our dog Anakin, too. I didn't know that Abby would take that dog on that trail, and I discovered it like 10 years ago. But wind and sea, La Jolla, there's just something super magnetic there, like space-wise. And then, of course, Hawaii, pretty much anywhere in Oahu. There's not a single square inch of that island I'm not, like, just brings a smile to my face. Town, it's just got such different vibes, the bustle, the Japanese tourists, the crime and prostitution, the drugs. And it's like, I grew up watching like Hawaii Five-0 and Magnum PI, with my family. And like, so that's like indelled in my, that old school, and there's a hard side of Hawaii, and I kind of like that. And then you got the country, where our family lives, and, the surfing Mecca, heartbeat, Lumeria, you got up in the mountains and you got all these portals, Canna Point, the west side's like, so dry and just empty, very local. Yeah. But yeah, I know I've been thinking about geographical happiness lately, like tuning into that. And Mission Hills, where I grew up in Mission Hills in San Diego, kind of like wind and sea. I get this calmness, just good memories, I think, too.
You're probably grounded.
It's grounded.
Yeah.
It's really grounded. I always, whenever I'm down there that way, if I have time, I'll go. I have a lot of friends that still live there and, took over their families' houses. And yeah, it always feels good. I'm still tight with a lot of my childhood friends, which is crazy. A huge amount of them. We get together regularly and just, there's nothing like it. Like nobody talks about work, and you got people from all walks of life. But yeah, that's a happy place, I guess. In the water, in general, I guess. Yeah, being out in the water. But yeah, it doesn't have to be the water. Like I'm stoked, like running around the beach with my dog, and George's middle of the beach where we go a lot. We had your surprise birthday party, but that stretch of beach, that place is magical. It's kind of like the last, there's this like lagoon on one side, Pacific on the other, and it's like the most beautiful little stretch in Southern California.
So it's all outside.
Yeah.
It's all, at least with the water view and touching the earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess for inside, I don't really have any. Yeah. Inside my van, like camping in the desert or something with a pop top on a cool night.
Which is basically like a chrysalis outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inside, outside. Yeah. Yeah.
And based on your stories, I mean, your love of surf has taken you all over the world. So you've got to experience that everywhere.
With surfing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, surfing was my start my family traveled a ton and they got us, we just traveled. And then Ailish took off and she was super gnarly and living in Spain and traveling around. But I knew, I blended photography with that, went to professional photography school, got trained, I realized I'm like, okay, I can do this as a living. And I was really good at like manifesting and creating these opportunities. And, I'm always meeting people who are about to lose that second camera.
Oh, okay.
It's going sideways. Maybe give it a tilt upright. It was upright. There you go.
Moving.
Yeah, perfect.
There we go. Yeah. You were going sideways.
See this tripod? It's on like a full roller. It's got some gaffer tape holding it up.
This is one of Ian's productions.
Yeah, this is a high level. But then I started getting paid to go on trips, a ton. So
That's a good trick.
Yeah. So then I would, travel, on these shoots. We travel and shoot. And then, more when I didn't have kids, we would tack on extra time and, spend a week here, in Japan or Costa Rica or Europe or wherever. But yeah, that's been a good thing. But yeah, surfing and travel have always been, that was a really, really big focus for a long time, like going after the best waves in the world. And, and Hawaii's been a constant, and that doesn't really feel like traveling. It's just sort of like second home. But I still want to travel to surf. Like, oh my God, there's so many places like I go back to, like the Gold Coast of Australia is incredible. The South Coast of Australia, I've had some incredible downloads and dreams there on the Aboriginal land. There's just some timeless energy. That's another great spot, actually, a really good feel-good spot. The South Coast of Australia, this town called Ulladulla, and it's very similar to La Jolla. It's like La Jolla 100 years ago. Similar limestone reefs, a lot more open space because it's like 100 years ago. Like same kind of heavy waves, like Hawaiian style waves, offshore winds. Yeah.
It's really fascinating how it's led you and opened you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expanded, evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
What else? So I know your dad was one of probably your greatest mentors. Sounds like you had a lot of incredible friends. Is there Are there others who have really changed your life or offered you? Because I'm always fascinated with your different protocols for handling things, but that usually comes from someone exemplifying it in the first place.
yeah, I mean, yeah, my dad obviously was a huge silent impact. It's weird
Mm-hmm.
because everybody said, he's a clinical psychologist, and he was also like a part-time professional athlete. And everybody who's like, "Oh, your dad's a psychologist. He must have gotten the best advice ever growing up." And I was like, "No, he didn't really dole out advice. Even when I asked, it was like he almost let me figure it out. It wasn't like, and I don't think he was trying to not share information, um, because he would, but he would, I think, just wanted me to figure it out myself.
Mm-hmm.
He would kind of let me kind of run my course. But I remember when I was like 11 and a half or something, and I had a pretty gnarly red line temper up until I was about 11. From like, since I was born till 11, I just would rage. Like something was not going my way.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would say I'd turn blue, that kind of shit. And then when I was, getting older, like 10, 11, I just, it's just like this empathic thing of like the injustice of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and just not knowing what to do with it all. And then also wanting things to be a certain way and not being able to make it that way right now.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were handling me great. They just didn't, they just let me
didn't
just
engage
blow up,
Yeah.
And we talk about it later. I always, 15 minutes later, I'd calm down and be like, "God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, I got to work on that.
Little 10-year-old.
And then surfing really helped. And I remember going and just really chiseling away at my dad. He was working out. It was a Sunday morning, and it was before I started biking and surfing. And he was working out in the garage, and I wanted his attention. And he was pumping iron, listening to his 50s music, 60s music, whatever. And he benched a lot. He worked out super hard. Like he was buff, and he was just pushing it. Like it was like fucking focus. Whoa. And I'm on the side, I'm going, and I came in to deliberately ask him a question, but I was also kind of just trying to bug him to take his attention away. And I was like, "How do you stay?" So I think I asked him the question, like, how do you stay happy, Dad? How come you're happy all the time? Like positive.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kept pumping iron. Like that was his advice,
All right. Just keep pushing it. Just keep.
Yeah, because he had a lot of shit in his head.
Yeah.
He had a lot going on. And we didn't hear about it. So that was, and I think that's a start. I think,
Well, and in that way, you took his advice. You've always pushed it.
I just kind of had to go out and just
Yeah.
get on my bike and go. I was already wanting to anyway, and surf and skate. And
Mm-hmm.
I was biking 12, 15 miles a day. I'd go biking down from Mission Hills to down to the beach. And, early 80s. And it was like localism. Like it wasn't like a friendly environment. There's this like, there's no kid tracker. There was, I didn't know where the fuck I was. It was just like, just take off, gone all day. Bought my own surfboard, my paper out money. Remember getting my bike seat ripped off one day when I went surfing. And so I had to bike all the way back to Mission Hills, holding my board on a BMX bike with my surfboard. I had the freaking gnarliest legs, man. It was like this 12-year-old kid. See pictures, my legs were just built. But yeah, he was a great mentor. I had a lot of mentors. My Uncle Pat, who I just dreamt about last night. My dad and Uncle Pat showed up in Catalina. This beautiful dream. And he was just like a mentor in a way with like, because he was a single dad, sort of like, not single, like the mom's dead, but, he got divorced young, like I did, like the kids were little. And he had 2 daughters that are like my best friend's little sisters, Megan and Marissa. And so I kind of grew up with them when I was up in Santa Barbara at school. And so I hung out a lot with Pat, and he's closer in age to me and kind of immature. And so we were closer like brothers, he was, we do stupid fart jokes, and he was very simple and just very loving and kind. And we'd all just do our own things. He'd go off and do his runs, and my cousins would swim and play soccer, and then I'd surf all day, and we'd all come back to my grandmother's house, and she'd make us all, Sunday night dinner and stuff. But Uncle Pat was an amazing mentor because he was not trying to be, he was just loving and there. And I saw how it was with his daughters, and just so committed. Like he didn't have, he didn't date, he didn't have like any other distractions in his life when they were young, until they were off to college. And so just with his like focus with them and focus with like my grandparents and helping them out, and just being a good guy, he wasn't trying to he was a hard worker, and he just had a good kind of a balance of things. And he was just lighthearted and simple, which I loved. And understanding. And my grandmothers were both mentors as well. Like my Candy Nana, who was married to Spider Papa, and she was a freaking saint. I named her Candy Nana because she had candy all over the house. She was sweet. She was this Austrian who got beautiful, looked like Snow White. She got polio at 33, I think, when my dad was 2.
Oh my God.
And his older brother Bill was 4. And they had to go live with their aunt and uncle for a couple of years, which was okay, but it wasn't their mom. And so she is just one of the strongest women. I just knew her as like this super strong, beautiful woman who cleaned the house every day, ran the gift shop at church, had the sweetest, softest voice, always loved just being around us, but always did her own thing, But she would cook Sunday night dinners for everybody. And she had no use of limited use for legs. So she had these custom crutches and strong arms. She'd swim, and she'd crawl around the house, clean the whole house every day. She was gnarly. Wow. She never complained.
That's perspective.
Always talked sweet about people,
Maybe that's where you get it. I've noticed that about you. I mean, your family's all very, very sweet and pumps people up, but you really do.
Thank you. I'm probably the most cutting. I've had to work on it because I have more of a default to. I've had to kind of let the sarcasm stuff go a long time ago because I realized it's kind of low vibey. But yeah, my family we never really talked. You never talked about other people in a negative way. It wasn't. Never heard the word hate. If we use the word hate, like I hate this, wasn't acceptable. It was like saying the N-word. Yeah. Because of the energy that it contained. Right. My mom would draw that attention to us, what that meant. What is it doing, that energy? Yeah, all my family, they just weren't, they're just good people. They just weren't, my grandmother Ginger was amazing too. She actually came from a pretty gnarly background, different background, but gnarly. She was, family had money. It was stock market, and they were living in Manhattan, and they went from very wealthy to nothing at all, I think, from the stock market crash. And Dad jumped out the window, one of those guys, and Mom went crazy and left the kids. My grandmother and her 3 siblings. My grandmother was 9 years old, middle of winter in New York, 1937, I think. And so she ended up taking care of those kids that whole winter, burning all the furniture, going out and stealing fruit, whatever. And then the state, I think I don't know how long they lasted, maybe 6 months. And then the state kind of found out and came in and took my grandmother and her sister, and they went to a family member, and the other two kids went to adoption.
Oh shit.
And then 30 years later, my grandmother reunited them. And so I grew up knowing these, Uncle Buddy and other aunt as it was just normal. They just got normalized, and
Wow.
into the family. And so, yeah, these stories are just like, what the fuck,
It's
dude?
just
We got
epic.
nothing to complain about, dude.
It's such perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And she never talked about it. But I always ask my mom, why does she fucking have so much food? There's like, everything's hoarded, dude. But you want to cook something?
9 years old, taking care of her younger sibling.
Dude, she had storage units.
Really?
I mean, if you wanted something, if there was anything you needed, you just go to her house, and she's got 5.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Christmas was like
That's incredible.
25 different things wrapped up. You're just like, oh my God, it was like a thing. But yeah, she was inspirational and mentor in that way of just like, and a great singer and show person. Like she overcame a lot, and she was just very public, like great, like lounge type of singer. She'd rip it out.
How cool.
She'd you go into a restaurant and they had a piano bar, and she'd go up there, and everybody ever knew her, and she'd be like, just start ripping like Ella Fitzgerald tunes. And it's classic.
Larger than life.
I know. My grandfather, her husband, Leo, was a barbershop quartet singer, artist. Had passed early, 56, my age. Yeah.
Yeah, you live a lot, and it seems like it's fueled.
It's what?
It seems like, I mean, I view you, and you like are all over the place, living, like squeezing every drop out of life. And I can see, from your roots where that just seems normal.
Yeah.
And your perspective now seems right-sized.
Yeah, it's just being present these days, really.
Uh-huh.
I had a pretty good run of not a lot of stress in my life. I mean, there was always stuff, but like a good 30, 35 years of really, really
low stress.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. You worked through that, like the anger you were born with, probably not of this life.
Mm-mm.
And then you moved through that. You had your punk rock era.
Oh yeah.
And then over time, it sounds like a lot of that's dissolved.
Yeah, surfing neutralized it. And then music and punk rock was a good energy outlet. I still love listening to hardcore. I took Ginger and her friends wanted to go see Black Flag, which was my first show. My dad took us to that, dropped us off. Didn't take us. Yeah. 7th grade. And I still love the energy of it. It's like the yin yang. It doesn't always resonate with me. Like I wake up and I listen to singing bowls and Tibetan bowls and that kind of stuff, and Indian guitar, and I still love hard rock and Slayer and stuff, but I definitely am more tuned into like the energy as like a tool, and it's not like the only thing I listen to at all by any means, but I like a lot of deep house, and I love the combo of deep house, tribal, electronic stuff because it's tribal, and it ties in this stuff that I've always felt is sound frequency is healing and can change things. It can move pyramids. It can do anything. Mm-hmm. And, now all this stuff is coming online and it's being remembered, for the power that it is. And so connecting those dots of like sound frequency, and so many people I know actually in the healing spaces came from the super hardcore punk background. And now they're into these healing spaces. So it's like the Enneagram where like, you got the devil and Jesus are both on the one, you got the two different things. You can't get one without the other. Mm-hmm. Like kind of, if you fully realize yourself and you've come from the shadows, then you can go to the light, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. But yeah, music is I love music.
That's interesting that the evolution that a lot of the sound healers now are from a punk rock background.
Yeah, there's like Mitch Horowitz is like a big, he's like a big occult guy. Mm-hmm. He's like my age. A couple of friends of mine that were super like, and they're all empathic people. I mean, it's like empathic, socially driven music. It's super energy, lots of intense energy and feelings. And, in the early days of punk rock, it was very, it was against, all the mainstream stuff, It wasn't packaged up and as poppy as it is now. Not to knock it, because it's still energy and it serves a purpose, but it was a lot riskier then, that's for sure.
And that's the medicine that was needed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've gone to some I have hope for the youth, man, because there's, we can't judge. I hear a lot of people like my age, like saying like, oh, it's not how it used to be, or these kids these days. But it's like, these kids these days are not like anything we've ever seen. Like the babies being born now, I don't know if you've noticed, but they're all psychic as shit. Like it's off the chain. So every generation is evolving at such a rapid speed right now. You can't apply your story or our paradigm to that. It doesn't work.
The comparison isn't valid.
Yeah, worlds are totally dissolving. I mean, you're seeing it all around us right now with like, yeah.
Well, to grow up with, you talked about like, your parents were young when they had you.
Yeah.
And everything you were just sort of born into and surrounded with, it wasn't forced on you in any way. You had all that at your disposal early on. And I think the kids now, like our kids, with their, sure, there's, social media and things that might be doing what we consider harm right now.
Yeah.
But just the things that we do, our practices, they just grew up knowing about those.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of hope. A lot.
Oh, completely. Like, yeah, the internet is, even though it's, got a lot of issues. Yeah. It's got issues, but it's the access is there if you want it.
Yeah.
You just have to be discerning. That's the thing.
Well, in general, we have to be discerning. So
yeah,
I think they're learning earlier on how to do that, just based on how they feel.
Totally. Well, like the decline in alcohol sales,
Mm-hmm.
like the whole Gen Z thing is like, they think about it. They're conscious about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing.
It's pretty cool.
So
my 18-year-old just doesn't drink.
Yeah. And it's not a marketing campaign, because it's only gotten more, money being thrown at it.
Right.
It's just not resonating.
Mm-hmm.
They're just in a different frequency. It's a different channel.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
It's evolution. Okay, last question. I'll let you off the hook. Tell me the story of us meeting.
About what?
Tell the story of us meeting. I want to know it from your perspective. Do you remember?
Oh, that perspective? It's kind of like the cop asking the people at the accident scene, what did you see?
What did you see?
Well, I saw this guy coming out of a stall at a music festival. No, it was, so I always got to put things in context.
Okay. And you're also stalling so that you can remember.
Well, no, I'm rewinding. I'm zooming out the crane.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
And pulling out. Because the context is everything.
Is important.
Yeah, because there's always a blip of the moment.
You're right.
So I could tell you, okay, I met it, because the context is really everything. I was riding on a pretty good high of life. I'd recently made a very important break in a relationship that was like a hold for like 3 years. And it was a beautiful spring day. And I went over, I was dropping in on my friends Tyler and Caitlin. And they're like, hey, we've got tickets to Marcus Wyatt. Was it Marcus Wyatt?
Could have been.
Was it Marcus?
I don't remember.
No, Lee Burridge.
Lee Burridge.
Yeah. Marcus is more like late night J Tree. Yeah. Lee Burridge. It was a day party, downtown San Diego, which I'm not like day party guy. I'm barely party guy, as you know. I'm like, 24 hours being at Burning Man or something.
Yeah.
When's the jet picking me up? So it was like this fun little thing. I wasn't planning on it. And then Tyler and Ken like, we're going down to Lee Burridge. We got tickets. I'm like, cool. So we get down there, and it was like this, cool outdoor vibey springtimey day afternoon. And I think I was in line to go drop into I was going to the guys' bathroom, porta potties, whatever, outside. And there was like multiple bars, outside bars. And I think I was still drinking. Yeah, I was drinking. I wasn't drinking that like heavily, but I remember bars, being there, and it was like a day party thing. And I don't think I had anything. I mean, I don't think I had anything at all. And I was either in line or I was walking past. I felt like I was just floating the whole day. I was just kind of buzzing. And then I saw these two beautiful creatures. I knew one of their faces from her sparkling blue eyes. And then this other crazy bird next to her that just looked beautiful. And I was like, and I heard their voice and I was like, oh my God, it's Francis. They're like the most dressed up people at this thing, just layers and outfits and cool things going on.
and,
it was like this feast for the eyes. And we were just sort of passing, and then Francis says, it's Ian. Jennifer, this is my good friend Ian. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. You have to meet my friend Jennifer. Jennifer's here visiting from Milwaukee, and You both have daughters or something like that. And you're like, oh really? And it was like, we talked for like 30 seconds, I think. And they were just kind of on our. I think we talked for a little bit longer, maybe for a couple of minutes. And then I had come with like, Tyler and that whole crew were meeting up, and then I said, did I end up walking over with you guys? I think I ended up walking back and hanging out with you guys because it was a small thing. And I think I saw my crew over there too. And everybody was kind of mingling all over the place, and just kind of, I didn't feel like obligated to go hang back out. And we were having a good time, a good chat. And then, I think we went back, and it was like, a couple of other people that I knew, friends of ours, and that was fun. That was a good little. I remember every little second of it.
That was like, that was the beginning. That's pretty much my memory.
Yeah,
Francis
and then we ended up.
I had come off 2.5 days of ayahuasca and DMT. I'm sober, but my heart's blown open.
Yeah,
I do remember the porta potties. I thought you kind of like walked out of the porta potty.
Maybe that was it, because the guys. It was unisex, probably. They wouldn't do like boys and girls.
Yeah, it was just like a few porta potties, and you came out.
It wasn't crazy. It was early. It was still clean.
Yeah.
You start talking porta potties. It's we met at a porta potty.
I know.
Yeah, she looked pretty good at the honey bucket. I'd never seen a festival slag like that before. I just had to get that honey bucket.
But you're right. That's totally Francis. And then with the daughter.
She goes, you're a video guy. Because that was it. I could tell you'd had some conversation where you were probably like, I need to meet somebody who does video.
And she's like, boom, here you go.
That was a connector thing. Because I could tell when she said that, she's like, Ian does video. And I was like, oh, they've had some conversation about video. And she probably was going to say, we're going to manifest somebody with a video.
Yeah, here he is. Boom, prepackaged. Yeah, and we were sitting on a picnic table. And then the daughter's conversation, and somehow this.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing so much to my life.
It's
rare to have, someone who can meet on, I don't want to say just all the levels, but constantly bringing newness, new technology, new perspectives, new stories. It's pretty, expansive, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, when you first asked me this, I first was like, I've been in my head, I've been dealing with a lot, and I just haven't, like, to be quite honest, like, my esteem is not like, I'm good. I've like put on productions and I do the things, but it's not like, I think I've been in this, I pulled the sloth card earlier, as you saw. I've been a little bit more in a contemplative, kind of observing mode.
Reserve mode.
And so the prospect of talking about anything in my life, was a little daunting a little bit because I don't know. It was a little like scary. I'm like, oh God, what am I going to get asked? I'm like, okay, but I trust you, and I love you, and just, you are one person. You're another mentor, for God's sakes. Like you're like you're like a cross between a lot of these people, like my dad, my grandmother Barbara, or my cousin Jenny, and I look at what you go through, and you've often been like a soundboard for a lot of the stuff that I'm dealing with as single parenting, dealing with stuff. And I often go, well, shit, what would Jennifer do? And I got to like take that and then half it, because I got to right size the expectations, we're not all dealing with the same kind of, ingredients.
Right.
And so, yeah, you've always been a inspiration for a powerhouse of creativity, a powerhouse of being able to just, you drop in and are like truly present, which is really incredible how you can just do that, like in almost any time, anywhere. So thanks for asking all the questions and, getting me to talk about it. Good luck editing this.
I know. Or maybe I just won't.
It's going to be 5 minutes long?
Yeah, it's going to be 5 minutes long. I'll just let it roll. It's perfect.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's like interviewing a friend. Sometimes I get in the mode where it's like, I should know this about someone. And so I notice with some people, I just don't ask because I feel at a certain point I should know things or I've forgotten them.
Oh.
And so it's really neat to, even if, I want to hear these stories again, not just for everyone else out there, because I think they're inspiring, but when you hear it again and you hear the story, it's, it's muse for me too. And it's really nice to have, brothers and sisters in arms that are, like you said, it's not the same ingredients, but we have the plates with the same things on them, similar things. And
well, it's relatable. I can relate. I trust your perspective, kind of thing, because it's like there's a lot of people that are doing it, but it's like I don't really,
look to.
Got a lot of friends that are like, I can't even relate to their situation, their kids. I'm just like,
yeah. Well, thank you for the perspective. Thanks for the continued practice, and it's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You always force me to slow down and chill out. We had this beautiful chrysalis of a day. This interview started with lightning and thunder, literally, and hail.
And then something in our ear changed, and you said the pressure's changing, and then it hailed.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Said that before it happened.
Right. And
5 minutes before.
It's sunny as fuck.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Sunny as fuck.
Sunny as fuck.
Let's see if these things are still rolling.
Should we? Yeah, I forgot to hit start.
Oh, God. Let's see.
That biomat is so toasty.
Holy shit.
What? Oh, my God.
An hour and 33 minutes long. I was mentioning a lot of mentors, which are all incredible mentors in my life, but one person that stands as a shining light all times since I was born, because I was born, my mom.
Because you were born, yeah. Since before you were born.
Actually, we're sitting on this couch she made. We made it together last July, and it was fun collaborating with her on this. We collaborate on stuff pretty good. But yeah, she's been my like kind of creative muse. And she was our family's creative muse.
Okay.
And kind of guide through things. Yeah, she was like a good balance for like my dad's worker energy. And she was just a good, just the mastermind, basicly, of things.
The creative mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and she's helped guide me my whole life with just, little nudges, and not real forceful, but just like super intuitive, new. We're just super psychically connected, and she just, would drop little things like, she was trying to turn me on to meditation, when I was little, and I just wasn't ever ready for it. And I didn't get into it. I was like 29 or something. But yeah, even to this day, it's like, she is like tough stock, man. She's been through it all, and she's always positive. Nothing is daunting to her. At like, 77 or something, she still like would go to Italy for 3 months by herself and not go to a resort. She's like traveling around, solo. And she's done that her whole life, Morocco, gnarly places, and Tunisia. I want to go to Tunisia. Not today. I want to go to Egypt. Too scary. But yeah, she's in Mexico, lots of mainland Mexico stuff. And she's just this incredible art historian, architect, designer, loves storytelling, loves good stories, loves comedy, doesn't take things too seriously.
Is that kind of where you got your design eye from? You
definitely.
Think? Yeah.
Absolutely. Grew up with Vogue magazines, architectural magazines, international books and magazines. And when we traveled, it was always like an art history lesson or design and food. And yeah, she was definitely the cultural attaché of the family, and turned us all on to that, which I appreciate. We get along really good, and just, she gets me, and it's incredible. Even like I'm doing constant concepting, storyboarding with productions. And if I could hire her on all these productions, she would be such an asset, because she's just one of those, she could just dive in and do anything, and help out. Like you're a good Renaissance woman of art and design, and combining it with being able to do, like, she sewed like this
actually
couch.
Do things,
like
actually she can conceive it,
like
and
design
execute.
it, but then like follow through.
Mm-hmm.
Like the houses she designs and builds, and like, when I was younger, it was really frustrating working for her, because I just wanted to get it done quick.
Mm-hmm.
And she does it not the easy way, but it ends up looking killer. Always ends up looking like really, really good.
Beautiful way.
Yeah.
What's your vision for the family? It's often said, and this is a question I kind of ask everyone, we underestimate what we can do in 1 year, and we overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 5. And I know you have the property in Hawaii, and your mom is like the angel of that.
Yeah.
And what is the vision for that? Or is it a feeling right now?
Well, I mean, I'm there mentally, and I go there a lot, but I'm there in my mind all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kind of take every day. I've never been like a long-term planner. I think part of it is just having a lot of people die,
Mm-hmm.
But I am starting to think a little bit more like that. Like, okay, well, kids are getting older, go, in different options. I've been doing this kid thing for 18 years. So,
right.
But I don't know. It's not really necessarily for the property. It's more like just, I want to be there more to help her out, with stuff. She's still totally able to do stuff, but it's a massive property, and there's always stuff to do. And I love working and doing things, building or painting, or, well, no, not so much building. I like to do it, but I'm not. I'm better at the finish work and the, design and painting and gardening. Yeah. But
so just having it and growing it and having a place for family to gather. And
I just see it as, like this chrysalis. I definitely have we have a shared vision of things, of what it looks like, and it's already there. It's just like, even more so. And yeah, it's more of it's like an energy. I see a horse there for my daughter, to come and ride, and
a place to return.
Yeah, little telescope with a observation thing. We've got a great little pool deck, and I just started rebuilding that, even though it didn't need to be rebuilt totally. I just went for it. Not going to do that again. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. maybe
America.
build a stone wall, this like Hawaiian rocks and stuff,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, there was like a bunch of little like checklist kind of things. But yeah, that's generally it's more about a feeling.
Mhm. Just be a
Yeah,
lifelong process.
yeah. Because when you're there, you kind of have to just slow down.
Mhm.
Yeah, even if it's like turtle traffic, you're trying to get from the North Shore over just to Haleiwa, which is like 5 miles. But if there's turtle traffic, it could take an hour and a half because all the tourists want to stop and check out the turtles and stuff. And so you're just like, all right,
Oh, it's not just that it's slow, it's actual turtles.
yeah. And there's no roundabout. You can't complain. Nobody complains. You're just like, all right, you just kind
Yeah.
of go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
You are
plan
creating
for it.
your reality.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the island now. I finally got to hang out with your family there, and
Oh, fun.
big
I
fan of your
know.
mom.
Yeah. I could. Yeah.
She's a celestial.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, they loved having you.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Uh,
Should we go play? Enjoy the day?
yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.